Do you want to work for $10,000 a day? That's the tuna fisherman. You only need to catch one tuna a day. You can easily earn thousands of dollars. The weather is very fine today. Bill is going out fishing early in the morning. His wife came over to help carry the stuff. She used to go fishing with Bill, but because of the age, no more sailing this year. She really misses being at sea. This time she didn't make it to sea. I felt my husband abandon me in an instant. After a ton of dog food, Bill set off in his boat. The woman only affects her own fishing speed. David's team is already at sea waiting. They waited all morning without any fish. I feel very anxious right now, because the daily cost is a lot of money. I keep throwing bait and no fish bite. The detector shows fish swimming by. Teammates want to switch places, but David didn't do the same. After all the time we've been here, we can't let all that nest bait go to waste. There was a difference of opinion between his teammates and David. Instead of catching the fish, there was a conflict. Well, the ship is at the mercy of the ship. Ralph's side is also waiting at sea. It's not too rough today, but the line kept getting stuck. When there's no fish, various problems with fishing tools. Soon the probe beeped. The line was pulled in an instant. This is clearly a fish to be served. Teammates keep tightening the line, but it's not the tuna that's biting. It's a blue shark. You catch a shark and you eat it. This shark is not big, but it broke the rod. Ralph greets the shark family. The fish didn't catch a fishing rod that cost $500. Not catching tuna is a loss anyway. Nothing on Bill's end so far. Take the bait and take revenge on the seagulls. John caught a fish on his rod. It's not tuna though. The fish became John's pastime in his spare time. He caught a cod. There's something for lunch today. Their target is tuna, before the fish is served, constantly switching bait and nesting. The monitor beeped from time to time. The next step is to wait patiently. Suddenly the rod was yanked. The tuna is officially hooked. His teammates started frantically pulling in their lines. It's normal to be excited after waiting so long, but there is no hurry. Sure enough, the tuna unhooked and ran away. They were so embarrassed that they were high. I want to find a shithole to dive into. Then they began to resume. All kinds of reasons anyway. It's hard not to catch a fish. It's not easy on David's side either. No fish ever took the bait. The waiting process is very boring. Maybe that's what fishing is all about. The longer you wait, the more excited I get when I serve the fish. The more disappointed the fish gets when they're unhooked. David was having trouble with his teammates. Teammates suggested changing the fishing spot, but David insisted on holding it, watching them argue. I quickly found a tissue to learn Japanese from Mr. Kara. I'll come back when you're done arguing. There's a lot of harmony here on Bill's team. Just sitting here polishing fishing rods. Faced with the loss of tuna, Bill decided to rejoin his teammates. A fishing boat suddenly appeared on Ralph's side. This is a bottom trawler, very close to their location. Not only does it interrupt their fishing, and they drag their markers away, Ralph immediately contacted the opposing fishing boat. But there was no response. This is a very dangerous situation. They ran after him and shouted, asked them to return the mark. Finally, Ralph wants to call the police. The response was derision. Ralph, there's nothing they can do about it. Had to leave them. David, they've been at sea for more than a day. They had not eaten for a long time. You don't want to go back if you don't catch a fish. And there are still problems with teammates. David decided to replace his teammates when he got back. When Bill returned to port, I soon found a new teammate. Decided to replace John. More experienced teammates will help him catch more fish. Hey. When the bait is ready, Bill's about to sail out here. The new crew set to work as soon as they got on board. That looks very professional. It's been less than 10 minutes since we dropped the bait. The line was immediately torn off. Gary immediately began to tighten the line, while another teammate opens the back door. Oh my God, that looks so professional. Open the door before the fish are caught. About 10 minutes. A tuna was pulled straight onto the boat. It's not very big though, but enough so they don't lose money. The next time, they put the tuna back. I didn't know what they were up to. It turns out that tuna must reach a commercial size of 73 feet. David's been waiting all day with no fish. In short, the fight is always loud. Crew disobedience, and all kinds of problems. A swarm of seagulls appeared near the ship. Every time I see a seagull, I know there's no fish. The bait is all used up. My teammates look like they didn't care the whole time. If it were me, just throw him in the ocean. Suddenly, the sea began to swell. It looks like there's going to be another big storm. The rope of the anchor held the ship tight. It's clear the direction has gone in the opposite direction. Had to cut the rope to relieve the tension, but that's a waste of an anchor. They had to find a new one to use. This is a terrible day. Go back and come back tomorrow. Early the next morning, Bill brought in new players. After we set the terms, they went fishing again. And David's team, they're having breakfast. I thought David would be a better teammate, and he chose to appeal to his heart. It's better than Bill the high guy. He can change his teammates faster than he can change his wife. In the end, they chose to trust each other. Ralph spends every day at sea. Not as much as the other teams, though. But these guys are acting like idiots. As a result, they never caught any tuna. They didn't catch a single big catch in the whole round. I've been talking about it for a long time. I was so embarrassed I wanted to dive into a shithole. While he was staring at the probe, teammates are already pulling in the line. The fish came very suddenly, but a small tuna. They must release animals to maintain the fishery. The little fish gave them a brief thrill and gave them hope to continue to wait. Bill and they're ready to start fishing too. After getting things ready, found 5 big fish on the detector. Suddenly, they were filled with anticipation. If we can catch them all, we'll make a lot of money. Soon the fish will be served. But it was a small shark. They rushed to make a second bait drop. Soon the fish bite again. But what happened was another baby shark. The fish was not caught. Bill the high guy is suspicious of his teammates again, because he used to be a partner with his wife. Now when you can't catch any fish, you miss the old days. I feel like Bill's the one who needs to be replaced. The camera comes to David. David was put on the plane by Paul. I just had breakfast and I thought I was good. I didn't expect to run away after breakfast. Paul's fishing experience spans 12 years. Something of an old hand. Facing Paul's plane, David feels a little understaffed. He had to go to sea with another teammate. Let's hope they catch something big. But Paul's already hooked up with someone else. Bill invited Paul to join him in repairing the boat. Paul was joking with Bill about David. Said David didn't respect himself. Well, it was pretty bad yesterday. Anyway, Ralph finally has a chance to catch a fish. It's the hope they've been waiting for. Ralph says if you break the rod again, I threw my teammates into the sea. Learned the lesson of yesterday. This time, he did not dare to be so hasty. The fish was finally caught successfully. It's not very big though, but there's enough tuna for a few days. David, they haven't had a harvest in days. Fishing is a job that depends on the sky. Without luck, I've been drinking Northwest Wind almost every day. It also cost $3,200. Big Ralph's the only ones who get anything for the whole episode, although it's a small tuna, but at least it's done without a loss. The buyer waits on the shore for the fish. Cut the tail to assess the fat content of the fish. The fish ended up earning $4,200. $800 off the cost, and make a few $1,000. These days of work have paid off. What surprises will they bring us next? Look forward to an update in the next video. This is a bluefin tuna that weighs 500 pounds. This size is enough to make them extremely excited. One fish sells for $16,000. Easy monthly income of $2 million. This morning, Bill and Paul assembled. Paul officially joined Bill's team. Bill's a high guy who changes teammates every time he can't get a hook. Paul has 40 years of fishing experience. I don't know how long I can stay with Bill. I don't think Bill's a high guy anyway. Paul and Bill went to sea for the first time. It's too quiet when no one's talking. Paul felt that he was not getting fair pay from David. It was a cooperative fishing trip. You only get 1 bottle of iced tea for every catch. No one would want to do that. Why don't you leave early and wait for his retirement? Bill decided to take him to a secret location today. He thought there must be a big fish there. I hope Paul can catch it. It was just the 2 of them on this trip, so Paul was very important to him. Now the 2 of them are confident. I feel like I'm going to catch a big fish today. Paul was bragging about how he was going to catch the big fish. I just hope this high guy doesn't get punched in the face. Upon arrival at the destination, Paul started working on his own initiative. Now he feels incredibly comfortable and stress-free. They're all so easy to do. David's plan today is to get the best position before he goes. Facing Paul's betrayal. He's very depressed right now. I wish Paul would tell him to his face. I didn't think it was my problem. Share the pain. If you are blessed, enjoy yourself. The 2 worked together for a very long time. I fished a lot of tuna, but every time it was either a box of sausage or a bottle of iced tea. Paul was doing himself a favor by just leaving. If it were me, take your wife with you. Now Sandro is the only teammate. David decided to give him a 50% cut. Sandro finally got his chance. The third party benefits from the tussle. David now realizes that it's a partnership with his teammates. It's not a simple employment relationship. I don't want to give it to my teammates. I guess he won't have anyone to play with. Dave's going out to sea today. Tuna was caught the other day, then took a few days off, sailing with Jay again today. Jay is Dave's nephew. It teaches him a lot every time he goes out to sea. Of course, there is a scolding. Jay really wanted to prove himself. He doesn't want to be pinned down all the time. There are still 3 weeks left in the fishing season. They must try to catch more fish in the limited time they have. Others they have open fishing. Paul's been raving about all the good things around here. He likes to follow Bill anyway. He felt everything was fine. While fishing, he needs to keep throwing bait. In my spare time, Paul never stopped talking, always making fun of when I was with David. How unfair it is. The others have been silent. I wonder if Bill has any regrets. I thought we had a fishing kingpin. I didn't expect a loudspeaker. It's been beeping, beeping, beeping. Not making fun of David, just bragging about how to catch a big fish. If I were Bill, just grab a handful of dead fish and stick it in his mouth. Anyway, Bill needs a fish right now to prove he didn't make the wrong choice. David, the detectors are beeping. 2 big fish appeared nearby. The fish started coming as soon as Paul left. If I can catch a fish, that's definitely a pretty good comeback. David also wanted to prove that he could do without Paul. The detector is ringing. Sandro kept throwing bait into the sea. The next step is to take the bait. David suddenly saw Bill's team not far away. He guessed at once that Paul had told Bill the secret location, but he can't care about that now. Tuna is nearby. Suddenly the rod was yanked. Several fishing rods are pulled together. Bill's keeping an eye on David. If this fish can be caught, I'd be jealous to death of each other. Sandro is retracting. David's coordinating with the fishing boat. This should be a big one. Bill saw David fish very quarterly. Paul told him not to take people too seriously, or you don't catch any fish on your own. As a competitor, I really don't see any good in each other. David's side is working very well with Sandro. In a tough confrontation between David and Tuna, suddenly the fishing line came unhooked. When I learned that David had failed to fish, Paul, the high guy, is smiling like he's high. Bill was instantly happy too, and he wrote taunts on the ball markers. In fact, I hate this kind of people. I can't wait for someone else to be nice. Dave came to the fishing spot. The first thing to do is to lower the anchor and secure the boat. Then I set up my fishing rod. The bait is about to thaw. Just getting things ready. The probe went off. The weather is fine today. Should catch some tuna. Dave and Jay work very well together, even though Jay gets yelled at every now and then, but still happy. Bill's been waiting all day without any fish. He plans to sail again in the morning, even though there's nothing to gain. But Bill was happy to go fishing with Paul. Paul was also desperate for a fish to prove himself to Bill. He's gonna hit David in the face with tuna. Early the next morning, Dave is back where he was yesterday, but here they didn't see anything. The Resource Bureau is giving them less quota to fish. Now, we can only catch 2 fish a day, although it is reduced, but it doesn't affect them. What? Because 1 fish a day is smoke from the grave. No trace of fish was found here. They decided to move on to the next location to fish. Fishing is all about luck. Encountering big tuna is also a stroke of luck, although a fish can make a lot of money. But this is all about the sky. Fishing season is only a few months long, but they often make a year's worth of money on the tuna they catch in a month. Bill took his wife with him today. Hope for better luck. Paul, the high guy, is doing stand-up on the boat. Little did he know that he had become a wage earner for the Bills. Paul was making Bill's wife laugh with his big talk. It shows that it looks very harmonious. While fishing, you need to keep cutting the bait for the nest. It's the only way to attract more fish. They make fun of David from time to time. It really hurts. David and Sandro were fishing nearby, too. They don't like watching the Bills team, but not all the time. Only catch fish. To drive each other mad, they've been looking for a location. There was no sign of any tuna. Time passed day by day. Bill put another teammate on the boat. I see they haven't been serving fish. I just kept talking. Sometimes I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. These hippies haven't caught anything but fish. Do you really say anything? Another day passed. The Bills teammates from yesterday are not here today. Again, he came out alone with Paul. The bait on the line changed hundreds of times, but no fish bite for days on end. It costs hundreds of dollars a day for fuel and bait. Paul would occasionally catch some small fish as bait. Bill is contacting David for a chat, and Paul saw it, but he made fun of Bill for not paying attention to his fishing. That's why we never catch any fish. It's boring here with Dave too. No fish were caught for days on end. The money I made the other day, the cost is going back up again these days. Jay keeps dropping bait, despite the occasional sound of the detector. But that noise has nothing to do with fishing. You don't always get a fish. Jay kept an eye on the fishing rod for movement. David's got a big fish on his side too. He asked Sandro to bring the bait. We're going to put out some bait to attract tuna. The effect was immediate. As long as David is a fish. The jealousy started on Bill's side. They wondered why David was so lucky. Paul mocks David. Even if you catch a fish, you may not catch it. Bill started shutting down. How could David be so lucky? David and Jay are working together. This time there is no rush. David guessed that the fish should be worth $10,000. When the fish gradually lost strength, David is just beginning to reel in the line. Bill's been watching with binoculars. Deep down, they don't want David to make it. Paul always made it a point not to care about each other's fishing. The more I say it, the more I care. After all, teammate Bill was watching with binoculars. There's a lot of tension around David. They've pulled the tuna to the surface. Spear the fish when the time is right. The tuna was successfully contained. This victory is unquestionably David's. This tuna is very big. Waited so long. Finally get to hit Paul and Bill in the face with this fish. Congratulations to David's team on their revenge. Bill was very happy when he saw it. Thinks Paul's a loser. Paul said to Bill, maybe the next fish will be yours. The cake fed Bill instantly. Others are fishing for tuna, and they're fishing for bait. Now all they talk about is the ship. I stopped making fun of David. I guess the mentality has been messed up. Well, if it collapses, it collapses. It looks good to me anyway. Dave, the detectors here show fish in the vicinity, but there was no bite hook. Under the water, these 2 fish are very big. If I can catch it, I'll have enough for the next month. There are 3 fishing rods in the boat. Jay kept dropping bait. As the detector's sound intensifies, the bait is getting bigger and bigger. Suddenly the rod was yanked. Once again, fortune favored them. I've waited so long for my chance to finally come. Jay's trying to pull the tuna up. Dave was at the ready with his harpoon. The tuna's resistance was not very fierce. As long as it stays on the hook, we can catch it. Jay slowly tightened the line. We thought we'd bring the fish to the surface soon. I didn't expect the tuna to take off. Start yanking the line. Fishing is a constant struggle. Soon it has no strength to be pulled up. Dave took a shot. So many days of waiting. Finally caught a big one. This fish weighs about 500 pounds. It's a very beautiful tuna. Tuna caught needs to be cooled back in the water. They used a crane to pull the tuna onto the boat. The size of the fish surprised Jay. This head is really too big. Days of hard work finally paid off. Jay shouted with joy. Dave thinks the fish is worth about $10,000. If I catch one every day, it's not a problem to go home and take care of a little girl after a month. Jay thought he was hopeless, but today's harvest made him feel that the wait of the last few days was worth it. This is a bluefin tuna. I'm sure I can get a good price. They immediately returned to Hong Kong to sell fish. David and his men returned to port first. They got something today, too. David asked for a price of $20 a pound, because this fish is very good today. The buyer saw that and it looked pretty good. David was very sad about Paul's departure. He needed to catch a fish to prove himself. The fish was bigger than he had imagined. The buyer offered $16,300. Subtract $1,500 costs. They netted $14,800. Dave and his men returned to port. The buyer is already here waiting. Dave caught a really good fish today, too. The fish is long enough. The fat content of fish determines the price of fish. The buyer takes a sample from the fish's tail. To see that kind of meat, Dave was already very confident. The core of the fish looks very good. Blue ribbon quality. Dave couldn't help laughing already. This is the best tuna he has caught so far. In the end, the black buyer offered a high price of $8,500. After deducting the cost of $1,500, net $7,000. Although it's a lot less than David's. But they were already very content. What surprises will they bring us next? Look forward to an update in the next video.